3. I hope things are going well for you and that you are becoming more and more comfortable with how this semester is going to work out. And that you're getting your heads wrapped around this narrative assignment. So what we're going to be doing this week is taking the work that you've already done and the ideas that you already have, and we're going to be moving them into more specific spaces through a couple of readings and a couple of assignments. And the idea there is that we're going to take as if you're writing them to this point has been just getting your ideas together. So now we're going to start bringing them into specific spaces so that you know exactly what you need to do in any given context, especially in this one as a narrative, to start to make sense of your writing and to pull it together into the ideas that you want to present. And this is a process that you can take to any assignment. In general, it's the best approach to writing is start putting your ideas on paper, and if you have the opportunity to get feedback on them, and then working through into how to apply it to your specific context. In this case, the context is this narrative assignment. We're going to talk a little bit more today about what that might look like for you and how to define it so that you can start moving toward drafting your assignment. So by the end of this week, and the last discussion post, which is due on Friday, you're going to be writing your first paragraph, which will be a good process for you because next week we're going to expand it into completing the whole thing, the whole first assignment, and you'll already be getting feedback from me. Just as a quick note for the discussion board post this week, those are not going to be comment oriented, so you don't have to comment as a part of it. You do have to submit it, and I will comment there. I'm leaving it as a discussion board post because I think it will be helpful for other people to see the ideas that are going around in the class, but it is not a requirement for you to comment on those, and we'll work more specifically with that as we move into peer review in the next couple of weeks. So here's where we're going for this week. I'm going to go to Blackboard, and not there or there, that's not helpful. There we go. And here's so that's week 2. Let's close up week 2 and then come to week 3. So here's everything that you'll see in the week 3 objectives and checklist. Here's everything that you need to be doing. So just simply walk through each of these assignments and you will be fine. I left here, I wanted to show you guys, and I'm not going to put it on this particular video because I'm not sure about licensing rights and things like that, and I don't want to replay other stuff because this is going on YouTube. It's a YouTube video. It's probably, I don't know if it's restricted or not, but what I do recommend that you do is watch this Neil Gaiman video on writing. It's I think a brilliant explanation of the writing process in a way that I find that is particularly helpful. Now, Neil Gaiman is a science fiction writer, and so his writing genre is a little bit different, but what you'll see in this video is how he approaches his writing, and he does a few different things, especially early on as he was not finding a lot of success in things that he needed to do differently. And I think those are skills that you can take into any type of writing that you do, if you're doing fiction or nonfiction or anything like that. So the 3 things that I want you to pay attention to in that video are: 1, notice how he changes his role. Now, at the beginning, he thought I'm going to be a fiction or science fiction writer. I'm writing these short stories. I'm starting it in, and he wasn't getting any traction. So he said, I became an investigative journalist. What he started understanding was how the process worked for his assignments as like he was a reporter. And so he started thinking more about genre and purpose and audience and how to respond to them and how to do the work that they were looking for. So thinking outside of that context, outside of his specific context as a writer and into the people that were going to be reading his work, helped him understand how to better approach his writing in general. Next, thinking about the other thing that he did or started to do was reading as not as an audience member, but as like a critical reader, as a content creator. He started thinking about not just is this good or bad, but what are some of the techniques and constructions that they do, but he connects it to his own writing and vulnerability. And so that's the third part of this to pay attention to, is how he presents himself as a vulnerable writer. And that doesn't mean that you have to completely tell everybody everything, but you have to be willing to put some of yourself into your writing. Now, as a fiction writer, that can be difficult because he's writing about stories and he's not writing about himself necessarily, but the best fiction writers find ways to envelop their own story, their own passions, their own things into their fiction. In the same way, as writing as a narrative, this assignment is calling on you to write more specifically some personal stories, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable. Now, ultimately, this vulnerability will help you in any sort of academic writing, even if you're doing research papers in the sciences or other things, because you should have some sort of personal connection with the writing that you're doing, so that you don't have this thing that this writing exists in this space outside of like this neutral abstract space. It doesn't lead to better writing. Now the genre may require that of you, but you want to fix that at the back end after you've got that personal investment in it. That's the key to these things, is making sure that you have that personal investment, and then tailoring whatever your assignment is to the specific audience you have. So in this case, what we're doing in a literacy narrative is you're putting yourself out there in the world as a part of the issue that you want to discuss, and then you're explaining why this is an important issue. I just said literacy narrative. It's just a narrative. You may talk about literacy, but it doesn't have to be about literacy. Sorry about that. But you're putting yourself out there. You are thinking through how to best approach this topic through your own experiences. Now, at some point in a lot of genres, you might actually leave the experience that prompted you to discuss this behind, and that's okay. Sometimes that requires it. Most times, they're actually, and it's something we've seen growing in the academic world, is where that personal investment happens. Sorry, I just realized they're about to boot me from AUM. Let me get back in there. Okay, sorry. So I hope that this video is helpful for you making this connection as you go, so that you can think through these ideas about your own story and how they apply across the board. So enjoy that video. I think Neil Gaiman's he's a brilliant writer anyway. You may have read Coraline, that's his, but also some things that have shown up in recent pop culture have been things like American Gods had a TV series, and there's a one going on currently called Good Omens. So he's a brilliant writer, and he's responsible for one of my favorite lines about fiction, which is fiction is a lie that tells the truth over and over. And so it's just a really interesting way to think about how even writing as fiction connects to the personal story that you want to tell. So so after you watch that video, I've left a couple of articles here for you to read. Consider your purpose and what to think about when writing for a particular audience. These are quite small, so they shouldn't take you long to read, and they're in our shared textbooks, so that you can see different things, so that you can ask about, what is my purpose for writing? And then I'm going to scroll up because the next article is right above it. If you click the link, it'll take you straight there. And then what to think about writing for a particular audience. So in this case, I want you to think about and explore what the purpose of a narrative would be. Now, we've talked at length a bit about how to establish this purpose, but in general, the purpose of your assignment is to explain an issue and then explain why the issue is important to you. And then as you extend to your audience, you're going to be explaining your issue, or explaining why your issue matters for us as a particular audience. So at this stage, and we may shift your audience later as we get to the argument paper, but for now, if you want to think about your context and the type of people that are going to be reading it, we're all in the planning stages, which means that everybody in this class is kind of working together to get us to the finish line of creating an argument. So right now, your audience is the people that are trying to help you with this assignment and with this overall assignment throughout the semester. So we want to give you feedback in this way. We want to understand, though, why it matters to us, and we kind of think ourselves as a college student community. Now, I know I'm a little older and not a student anymore, but I'm heavily invested in what's going on in your lives and why this stuff matters to you. So thinking about that particular purpose and that particular audience, and then see where that idea takes you. The reason why we talk about it like this is because thinking about purpose and audience helps you take that idea from the big cloud of why and puts it into why it matters, not just for you, but also for your audience. As we think about rhetoric as thinking about the audience and how what you're doing is appealing to them, that's the sort of thought that you want to put into this. So once you've read those, come down here and discuss in this assignment and discussion board post in the space below. write a brief summary, 200 to 300 words of your understanding of what you're trying to do with the narrative assignment. Like, what is your purpose here? What are you trying to explain, and why it matters to the audience of our college class? Then, as you get through that assignment, what I want you to do is you've started moving towards, okay, I now understand my topic, I understand my purpose, I understand my audience. Start thinking about how to pull that all together into an introductory paragraph. Now, I am not expecting this to be, this is discussion 5 that's due on Friday. I'm not expecting this to be particularly this like brilliant exposition at this point. Remember, this is the idea function, and what you can do in this opening paragraph is in the space below, compose a paragraph where you introduce your topic and a summary of your story. Your paragraph should end with a thesis statement, but you don't have to do a traditional 3-pronged approach. I don't know that it'll fit for this assignment. We'll probably deploy something like that in future assignments, but for now, don't worry about that function. Right now, we just want to explain where you're going with the rest of the paper. The thesis statement should include where the essay is going, what you will show, and the reason why it matters for your audience. So you can hear those 3 things that we've been talking about coming out in that assignment. You've got the bigger topic that you're thinking about, your perspective on it, and why it matters to your particular audience. And essentially, that's what we're talking about in the narrative form. And what we'll do from here is build from this and go toward how do we then engage with other people that are talking about the same thing. So as you work through the assignment this week, one of the things to keep in mind is where your personal story matters within the connection to the larger topic that you're discussing. So think about it like this. If your larger topic is the interstate, your narrative is the on-ramp to it. So it's showing how you got to this particular topic and why it matters to you, with the understanding that other people will share in a similar thing or a similar background, or at least have some consideration toward why your story might matter. So that's why your story is people that are younger than me for the most part, and from a different context. Like, what matters to you matters to me because we are in a similar boat as perhaps students or people invested in the growth of the college campus, or of AUM in particular, or in just citizens of the world, citizens of this country if you're from here, and why these particular topics matter in the greater sense. So make sure, as you're thinking about this, that your story, as much as it is your story, isn't the only thing, it doesn't dominate the narrative. You're using your story as a lens. So here's another metaphor, right? So the interstate, the on-ramp, now we're talking about a lens through which we might look at a particular issue. So think about it like my glasses. These are the lens through which I'm going to see everything. And so now what this lens does for me is, because I need corrective lenses, it provides clarity. So right now, this room would be very blurry if I wasn't wearing these glasses, so they put the glasses on. Now these things provide clarity for me, but they are my way of now seeing the world more clearly. And that's it's a couple of different ways that you can think about this assignment and how it matters for what you're doing. So work through these things. Let me know if you have questions. I'm getting those discussion boards back to you. So the discussion board comments that were due on Friday and Sunday, like, I'm working through those. I'll have them back to you first part of this week. And the idea is that we're going to keep moving forward and keep progressing and keep writing towards those things. So please pay close attention to my comments. That's the best feedback I can give you, especially because we're in an asynchronous environment. And all that means is that that we're not talking face to face or in direct contact, but I'm leaving stuff for you, you leave stuff for me, I feedback, and that's the loop that we go on. It's a good system. We can make it work, but it does require that you read my comments closely. So please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do for you throughout the week. And I hope you enjoy these assignments. I hope you're starting to get a grasp of how they start to move forward. But if not, always, please let me know. I'll look forward to reading your work. Thank you.